element which will introduce us to the use of translations within the interface. The idea that if necessary we could add new languages for display purposes. We can create anything that we needed to here. I'm not going to go through the process of doing that, but I just want to point out that Sage CRM is translated into a variety of different languages, and there are other language packs available. How do we go around changing captions and fields? Most of the time, if you're simply renaming elements, it's a question of using the inline translation. If this is all done through the CRM interface, if I switch over here and as I'm looking at something that I might want to change, for example, I may want to start changing the role of the labels that I use for opportunities or cases, for example. Let's call cases CSR rather than cases. We can call them tickets or customer support requests. So if that's the case, I can go into administration and I can go into customization and I can go into translations. Now, absolutely the easiest way of changing captions is to use the inline translation mode, which then, if I go off to the context in which I'm working again, here you can see cases, and you'll see there are little asterisks next to the labels that are on the screen. So if I click on that, and you can see that I've got translations that I can start to change. So I could put this to support ticket, change that like that. So if I change the translation that I want to use and save, once I move off and refresh the menu again, so if I go back into here, this should reload, and there you can see there's support tickets being used. So it's immediate to change the translations in here. And that allows me to go to a particular field that I might want, so an individual case, where we can see that we're working with cases or details or whatever it is that we want to change. Then we just need to keep repeating this idea of clicking in here and changing the caption to what we need it to be. So this is by the way, the easiest way to do it, using this inline translation. You can also, if you're returning back into the administration screens, I'm going to turn off this inline translation mode, and we can change certain things by going into the fields. So if I'm customizing here my support tickets, you can see where support tickets has now changed their translations. So I can come in here, and if I find a field that I want to alter, well, I can come in here and I could, in my description here, I could call this issue summary. Now that will change the translation for the default language for the system. And of course, the default language for the system is defined elsewhere within the administration screens, and of course is governed by metadata. But there we are. I can put in issue summary, and I can choose save. Now when I look at a customer service request, we'll see that there's an issue summary as part of my option. So it is a question of looking and finding the individual fields. And another way in which translations can be made is to start thinking about the options within selection lists. So here you can see I have a selection list, and I've got the individual translations for these. So I can change whatever my translation is like. But if I wanted to change all of the fields, you can see here, for example, there is the concept of a code. Now, most elements within the interface are translatable. And the things that are translatable have two important identifiers. One, they have a caption family, and the other, they have a caption code. And so if I go to customization and I go to translations, I can look up something by the caption code. And here you can see and find the translation for that individual option, and I could then change this for each of the languages that are used by my system. Now, those are the different translation methods, and knowing how to find translations is a very important item, because translations are used not just for the labels that we can see, but they're also used as part of the metadata definition that defines almost the glue on how certain items are linked together. Inside the database, we can see that there are structures that are complex. For example, if I go into consider the idea of a company, and I look at where I've got the idea of a V-summary company. V-summary company is a view that I want to look at in design mode, because it gives you a sense of the complexity of when we consider a company, what's involved. You can see here, for example, that we've got a relationship between the company and the person, and we've got a relationship between the company and the address of the account. This is a simplified relationship between the two. This is because there are relationships between company and a person, or a company and a phone number, or that are really quite complex in terms of the data model. Fields like the phone number information and the email information are not natively held inside the company table. There's some denormalization, but there is in fact a phone and email table. And in order to get the sense of being able to have multiple types of phone numbers for a particular company, or multiple types of email addresses for a company, we would look here on this screen and we can see that we have got different types of contact. So business, a fax, ISDN, modem, whatever. And these are defined, and the nature of those are defined through translations. So normally, if we wanted to add a new field to something, we would add a new field to the data model. But this is not adding a new field, it's adding a new row to things. And what we need to do is use translations as a means for doing that. I'm going to pick up this idea of business as an example and show you that we could add in another email type. So I'm going to go up to administration. I'm going to look at that code and assume that the code is the same as the translation. We can find that, and we can see that as we look through, I can see that there's these caption family called link. So this link area is really it's an important concept. Translations are now being used in a new way. So translations for phone and email types controlled by caption families. So if I want to play with adding a new email type for a company, then I need to look at the link_comp email family. So that's what I want to look for. So if I go up here now, get rid of my caption code and put in link_comp email and find out, I can see that we've got business, sales and support as the types of email addresses that are known about. So I might want to have a complaints email address. So I'm going to create here a new translation. The caption family is the core thing. What's the caption family, I should say, is the core thing. The family type, although this is a mandatory field, it's not essential. You could put banana in here, but typically you'd put choices or tags. Those are the two main types. And my caption code here is the nature of the of what I want to create, which is a complaint. A complaint type of email address. So here I've got complaint, etc. I've got everything defined, and I can choose save. And now, if I go and look at my company, if I go and look at my company, and I look at the phone and email tab, you can see that I now have added in a new field for email addresses called complaint. And if I had developed this a little bit further in thinking through the definitions of that translation, I could also have provided the ordering about where it appeared in the list. Okay. Now this idea of using translations specifically as a form of metadata for glue applies elsewhere within the system as well. It applies for things like the caption families used to control the types of address, the types of person that are allowed. So this translations and metadata are used to provide additional information in the intersection between entities.